The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with tension. Representatives of countless alien species filled the room, their voices a mixture of clicks, hums, and roars. At the center stood Jirinath, a slender, blue-skinned scientist from the tranquil world of Lycath. He adjusted his translator, his glowing eyes narrowing as the debate intensified. "This is absurd," Jirinath exclaimed, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Classifying Earth as a Class 15 Deathworld is already an exaggeration. Some of these reports claim it might even qualify as a Class 16. Do you realize how rare that is?" Across the room, Commander Thackrol, a hulking reptilian figure clad in military armor, let out a deep growl. "I've seen what humans are capable of," he said. "They're not just survivors, they're predators. The planet itself shapes them into something unnatural." The council murmured. A holographic display floated above the room, showing images from Earth, volcanic eruptions, towering hurricanes, dense jungles filled with predators, and most alarming of all, humans thriving in these conditions. "They adapt to everything," Thackrol continued, his sharp claws tapping on the podium. "Extreme cold. They conquer it with fire and shelters. Deadly predators. They hunt them back. Toxic environments. They wear suits and dive right in." Jirinath raised a hand to counter. "Adaptation doesn't make them monsters, Commander. It makes them remarkable. But we can't classify a world based on fear of its inhabitants. Earth's biodiversity is incredible, yes, but it's also balanced. It's not like the acid worlds of Trathora or the gravity wells of Torsen. Earth is livable, liveable." Thackrol's voice boomed. "For them, maybe. For the rest of us, it's a death sentence. How many reports of alien teams lost on Earth must we review before you accept the truth?" A smaller alien, with tentacle-like appendages and a high-pitched voice, chimed in. "What about the humans themselves? They thrive on this planet. Surely that suggests Earth is not as dangerous as we fear." Thackrol slammed a fist on the table, silencing the chamber. "You misunderstand. The danger isn't Earth alone. It's the combination of Earth and its humans. They don't just survive, they dominate. If they ever leave their planet in large numbers, they could reshape the galaxy itself." The room fell silent as the hologram shifted, now displaying humans in action. One video showed a group building a shelter during a raging storm. Another clip highlighted humans skiing down snowy mountains, seemingly laughing in the face of danger. The last image was of a human soldier rescuing a wounded comrade under fire, his determination evident even to the coldest of alien minds. Jirinath hesitated. Even he had to admit the humans were different. Most species avoided danger instinctively, but humans seemed to seek it out. Still, he wasn't convinced that Earth deserved the infamous Class 16 designation. "To settle this," Jirinath said, "I propose we send a research team to Earth. Let them study the planet directly. If Earth is truly as dangerous as you say, the evidence will be undeniable." Thackrol smirked, his sharp teeth glinting. "You won't be so skeptical once you see it for yourself, Jirinath. Earth is unlike any world in this galaxy." The council agreed, and within hours, preparations for the mission began. Jirinath volunteered to join the expedition, determined to prove that the fears surrounding Earth were overblown. As the meeting ended, Thackrol approached Jirinath. "One piece of advice, scientist," he said, leaning in close. "Don't underestimate the humans. They're not the strongest or fastest in the galaxy, but they're the most dangerous for a reason." Jirinath stared at him, the weight of the words settling in his mind. "We'll see, Commander," he replied. Far away, Earth continued its chaotic dance of storms, creatures, and humans, completely unaware that the galaxy was watching. The spaceship descended through Earth's thick atmosphere, its sleek hull rattling slightly as it cut through the turbulent winds. Jirinath and his team of alien researchers stared out the observation window in silence. They had crossed vast stretches of the galaxy, visiting planets with poisonous air, impossible gravity, and violent ecosystems, but nothing had prepared them for Earth. Atmosphere readings are stable, reported Jaren, a technician from the Velkoth species. Her 6 eyes blinked rapidly as she adjusted the controls. It's alive. You can feel it. Jarinath nodded, his fingers tapping nervously on his seat. He had read all the reports. He knew the stories of how alien teams had failed on Earth, disappearing without a trace or barely escaping with their lives. But he still couldn't shake the feeling that Earth was being overhyped. It couldn't be as dangerous as Thackrol made it out to be. The ship broke through the clouds, revealing a lush green forest stretching to the horizon. Massive trees towered over the landscape, their leaves shimmering in the sunlight. The team marveled at the view. It looked almost peaceful from above. But Jarinath remained cautious. He had learned that appearances could be deceiving on Earth. The landing was smooth, though the moment the ship's ramp opened, the air hit them like a wall. It was thick, humid, and smelled of rich earth and decay. Jarinath's translator struggled to process the complex scent, but he could tell it was alive in a way that felt intense. "We're not in a sterile lab anymore," Jaren said with a nervous laugh, adjusting her breathing mask. "This planet's alive with danger." The team stepped onto the surface, their boots sinking slightly into the soft, wet ground. The humidity was suffocating, and the sounds of distant creatures filled the air. Strange calls, rustlings, and the occasional thump from what they could only assume were giant creatures echoing in the distance. "Stay alert," Jarinath ordered, his voice steady but wary. "Remember, this planet isn't like the others we studied. It's unpredictable." As they ventured deeper into the forest, they came across an unexpected sight. A group of humans, seemingly unfazed by the wild environment. The humans were dressed in simple clothes and carrying equipment, walking confidently through the forest as if it were a familiar place. One of the humans, a tall man with short brown hair, waved at the alien team. "Hey, you guys lost," he called out in perfect Galactic Basic. Jarinath blinked in surprise. "You speak Galactic Basic?" he asked. The man grinned. "Yeah, we get a lot of visitors from space. Who are you?" The rest of the alien team stood frozen for a moment, unsure of how to react. These humans were out in the wild, apparently unaware of the dangers that surrounded them. The air was filled with the sounds of the forest, but nothing seemed to faze them. "We're explorers," Jarinath said carefully, keeping his distance. "We've come to study Earth. Earth's a great place to explore, but you guys might want to be careful. There are some creatures here that don't take too kindly to visitors." The man's grin didn't waver as he glanced over his shoulder at a large, shadowy figure moving through the trees. Jarinath followed his gaze. There, lurking in the forest's edge, was something enormous. A creature with gleaming eyes and sharp claws, staring at them with interest. Before Jarinath could react, the human called out to it. "Hey, big guy, don't get any funny ideas." The human waved a hand, and the creature backed away slowly, as if recognizing the human as one of its own. The alien team stood in stunned silence. Jarinath's mind raced. Did that creature just listen to him? "You'll get used to it," the human said with a shrug. "Earth's full of surprises." A chill ran down Jarinath's spine. On other planets, creatures avoided humans. Here, it seemed the opposite. The humans didn't fear the predators. They coexisted with them. Jaren shuddered, clutching her equipment tighter. This place is unnatural. Jarinath's thoughts were swirling. This wasn't the Earth he had read about. The humans weren't just surviving. They were thriving in this chaos. They didn't fear their environment. They understood it. The question now wasn't whether Earth was dangerous. It was how these humans were able to live so confidently in such a hostile world. "Let's move," Jarinath said, his voice firm. "We've got work to do." But as they walked deeper into the forest, Jarinath couldn't shake the feeling that they were the ones being watched. Something was different about Earth. and its humans were far more dangerous than they seemed. Jirinath's team continued their journey deeper into Earth's wild forests, and the longer they stayed, the more unnerving the planet became. Despite the team's careful steps, the constant sounds of strange creatures seemed to follow them. Every rustle in the trees, every shifting shadow felt like an imminent threat. "We're not in control here," Jarin muttered under her breath, eyes darting from one dark corner of the forest to another. "This world is alive in a way none of us understand." Jirinath nodded silently. He had studied planets with dangerous conditions before, worlds with toxic atmospheres, freezing temperatures, and deadly wildlife. But none had the sense of unease that Earth gave him. It wasn't just the physical threats that made this planet so deadly. It was the unpredictability. The human they had met earlier, the one with the wild grin and casual attitude, had left the team with one final warning. Don't trust Earth's calm. It can turn on you in a heartbeat. As they moved through the dense trees, Jirinath saw the truth of those words. The air was thick with humidity, making it difficult to breathe. But it wasn't just the air that made it hard to focus. It was the sense of being constantly watched, as if the forest itself was aware of their every move. The team stopped near a clearing to take a break. They set up their equipment, hoping to analyze the local flora and fauna, but Jirinath couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. Then it did. Without warning, a loud crash echoed from the trees ahead, followed by the unmistakable sound of something large crashing through the underbrush. A massive creature, unlike anything Jirinath had ever seen, emerged from the shadows. It was a towering four-legged beast, its body covered in thick, leathery scales. Its eyes glowed faintly, and sharp teeth glistened in its open mouth. The alien team froze. The creature didn't stop. It charged forward, its large legs thundering across the forest floor. "Stay calm," Jirinath ordered, his voice sharp. "Hold your ground." But the creature wasn't focused on them. It seemed to be running from something. Before the team could react, the creature crashed through the clearing and disappeared into the trees, leaving nothing but a trail of broken branches and disturbed soil. What just happened?" Jarin gasped, her eyes wide. Jirinath scanned the area, his instincts on high alert. The forest had gone eerily silent, as if it were holding its breath. Slowly, the team began to move again, but now their every step felt heavier, more dangerous. "Keep moving," Jirinath muttered, gripping his equipment tightly. "We can't afford to get caught off guard here." As they pressed forward, they encountered more signs of Earth's unpredictable nature. Strange plants that seemed harmless at first glance, only to release clouds of spores when touched. Insects that glowed in the dark, swarming around them in dizzying patterns. The entire ecosystem felt like it was fighting back against the team's intrusion. Hours passed, and the team's nerves were wearing thin. They had barely made any progress when they reached another clearing. But this time, there was something different. The human from earlier was there. He sat at the edge of the clearing, casually sharpening a knife, as if this forest were his home. Jirinath walked over cautiously, his suspicion growing. "What are you doing here?" he asked, his tone wary. The human looked up and smiled. "Just making sure you don't get into trouble. You seem like you could use some help." Jarin's eyes narrowed. "Why? What do you want?" The human shrugged. "I like Earth. I've learned to survive here. And I can teach you too, if you're smart enough to listen." The offer was tempting, but Jirinath wasn't sure whether to trust this human or not. They had already seen how humans seemed to coexist with the wild, even controlling the dangers around them. Could they learn from these strange beings, or was this just another trick of Earth's unpredictability? Before Jirinath could respond, a loud roar echoed from deeper in the forest. The team tensed, recognizing the sound of the massive creature they had seen earlier. But this time, the roar sounded closer. The human stood, slipping the knife into a sheath at his side. "You'll want to move quickly," he said, his voice calm but urgent. Things are about to get messy. Jirinath glanced at the rest of the team. They were exhausted, but the time for hesitation was over. Earth was unpredictable, and its dangers were very real. But the humans who survived here, they weren't just lucky. They had learned how to fight back. "Stay close," Jirinath ordered. "We move now." The team followed the human, unsure of what lay ahead. But one thing was clear. Earth's terrifying reputation wasn't just hype. This was a world where survival wasn't guaranteed, and the only certainty was that they would need to adapt. Fast. Jirinath's heart raced as the loud roar echoed again from deeper in the forest. The massive creature that had charged through their camp earlier was closing in, and the air felt thicker with tension. He quickly motioned for his team to stay close. The human they had met earlier was already moving, casually slipping through the trees with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for someone so out of place in this wild world. "Stay behind me," Jirinath said, trying to hide the anxiety in his voice. The alien team followed the human's lead, but they were still unsure of what they had gotten themselves into. The alien explorers had never been faced with a planet that seemed so alive with danger at every turn. The massive creature's roar grew louder, its heavy footsteps shaking the ground beneath them. It was coming closer. Jirinath's mind raced. Was it hunting them, or was it being hunted? Either way, their only choice now was to move quickly and stay out of its path. The human led them into a dense thicket of trees, ducking under low branches and weaving through the forest with ease. He didn't seem bothered by the dangerous creature that was just moments away from crashing into their path. "You seem comfortable here," Jirin muttered under her breath, her eyes scanning the shadows for signs of movement. The human glanced back, his expression unreadable. "This is my home. Earth isn't a place you conquer. It's a place you learn to live with. And if you're lucky, it'll let you." As the alien team pushed forward, the sounds of the beast's approach grew louder, closer. Every step felt like it might be their last. Jirinath was beginning to understand what the human meant. Earth didn't care about their technology or their superior knowledge of the universe. It was a world that demanded respect, or it would show you no mercy. Suddenly, the human stopped and crouched low, motioning for the team to do the same. The creature was near, its heavy breathing echoing through the trees. Jirinath's eyes narrowed as he saw the shadow of the enormous beast moving through the underbrush. The human turned to them, his expression serious for the first time. "This is where you learn what Earth is really about. No fancy gadgets, no weapons, just your wits and your will to survive." Jirinath's heart pounded. The alien explorers had faced many dangers in their time, yet none like this. They were used to being in control, to using their advanced technology to outsmart and overpower their enemies. But here, on Earth, none of that mattered. The beast wasn't interested in their weapons or their science. It was interested in one thing: them. The human motioned for them to crouch lower, guiding them to a narrow gap between two large boulders. They squeezed in, hearts racing, as the beast came into full view. It was even more terrifying up close. A massive reptilian creature, its scales covered in sharp spikes, its eyes glowing an eerie yellow. It sniffed the air, its large head darting around as it hunted. The alien team held their breath, trying to remain as still as possible. The human's presence had calmed them, but they couldn't deny the fact that they were completely out of their element. They were surrounded by a world that didn't care about them. Jirinath clenched his fists. What now? The human's eyes glinted with something between amusement and seriousness. "Now, you wait. You trust the environment. Trust me, we're not the ones being hunted." The creature paced in front of them, sniffing the air, clearly aware of their presence, but unsure of where to focus its attention. For what seemed like an eternity, the alien team held their breath, praying that the creature wouldn't detect them. And then, as if sensing that it had been chasing nothing more than shadows, the creature turned away and lumbered off into the woods, its massive form disappearing into the trees. The team let out a collective sigh of relief. Jirinath's legs felt weak beneath him, his body shaking from the adrenaline. "How did you know?" The human smirked. "Because on Earth, you don't fight the beast. You wait for it to make a mistake, and then you slip away." Jarin looked at him with new respect. "You're saying this planet doesn't want to kill us. It just tests us." The human nodded. "Exactly. Earth doesn't care about your strength or your technology. It tests your ability to survive. And it does that by pushing you to your limits." Jirinath's mind raced. The truth of the human's words settled heavily in his chest. Earth was not a place to conquer. It was a place to adapt. And to survive, they would need more than just their knowledge. They would need to learn the rhythms of the planet, understand its creatures, and respect its dangers. Only then could they call themselves true survivors. The human turned and continued moving through the forest, not waiting for the team to catch up. "You coming?" he asked over his shoulder. Jirinath hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Earth had shown them just how deadly it could be, but it had also shown them that it was possible to survive, as long as they were willing to learn. They didn't need to conquer Earth, they just needed to keep moving. And survive. The deeper they traveled into the wilderness, the more Jirinath's team began to understand Earth. It wasn't about weapons, technology, or brute force. It was about adapting, blending into the environment, and respecting the rules of survival. Earth was testing them in ways they never imagined. But no matter how many lessons they learned, Jirinath could feel that the hardest part was still ahead. They had been traveling for days now, the constant danger of the unknown lurking at every turn. The team's nerves were frayed, but they had learned to work together, relying on each other and the skills the human had taught them. It wasn't easy. Every step in Earth's untamed forests seemed to push them further out of their comfort zone. But they couldn't stop. If they did, the planet wouldn't show mercy. The human, whose name they still hadn't learned, moved ahead with confidence, leading them through a dense thicket. Jirinath felt a sense of awe and frustration mix within him. This human was so comfortable in this terrifying world, while they, a team of skilled and well-trained explorers, had struggled just to survive. "Why is it always us who are hunted?" Jarin asked, her voice sharp with frustration. "We have advanced technology, superior intellect, yet we keep running from beasts." The human turned to her, his face serious for the first time in days. "That's exactly why you're being hunted. Earth doesn't care about your technology. It doesn't care about your intellect. It tests what you're made of. And it only lets you pass if you show that you can adapt." Jirinath studied the human's face, seeing the wisdom in his words. Earth didn't care who they were, or where they came from. It was a planet that tested even the strongest, the smartest, and the most powerful. It was survival of the fittest, but not just in strength. It was survival in adaptability, in endurance, and in patience. Just as he was about to speak, a loud noise broke through the silence of the forest. A distant roar, familiar and terrifying. "The creature," Jarin whispered, her eyes wide. "It's back." Jirinath tensed. The massive beast they had narrowly escaped earlier was coming again, and this time it sounded closer. The ground vibrated beneath their feet as it charged through the forest, its heavy steps shaking the earth. The human didn't flinch. Instead, he motioned for them to follow him. "This is your final test," he said quietly. "If you want to survive here, you have to understand one thing. Sometimes running isn't an option. You'll have to face what's coming, and you'll have to do it without hesitation." Jirinath's pulse quickened. The human was right. They couldn't outrun the creature forever. It would eventually catch up to them, and they would be trapped. The team looked at each other, uncertainty in their eyes. Could they really face the creature head-on? They weren't fighters, not like Earth's predators. But they had learned something crucial from the human. To survive on Earth, they couldn't just hide or run. They had to stand their ground. "We face it," Jirinath said, his voice firm. "This is the only way." The team nodded, determination replacing their fear. They crouched low and moved toward the sound of the creature, their hearts pounding in their chests. As they reached the edge of the clearing, they saw it, standing in the middle, its massive body blocking their path. The beast was staring at them, its yellow eyes glowing with an unblinking gaze. Its jagged teeth were visible as it snarled, ready to pounce. Dreenath felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it. There would be no escape. The human stepped forward, his body language calm and confident. "Watch closely," he said. "This is how you survive on Earth." To Dreenath's surprise, the human didn't attack the creature. Instead, he crouched low, making himself as small as possible. He didn't flinch when the creature let out a terrifying roar. Instead, he waited. The teen watched in stunned silence. The human wasn't backing down. He wasn't even trying to scare the creature off. He was simply waiting. The beast circled them, its eyes never leaving the human. Then, with a sudden movement, it lunged, straight for the human. But before it could strike, the human dove to the side, rolling out of the way. The creature's massive jaws snapped shut on nothing but air. Dreenath couldn't believe what he was seeing. The human wasn't fighting. He was moving with the creature, reading its every move. He was outsmarting it without any weapons or force. The human stood up, his face calm as ever. Earth doesn't just test your strength, it tests your mind. The beast, confused and unable to catch its prey, finally turned and lumbered back into the forest. The tension in the air lifted as it disappeared into the trees. Dreenath exhaled, his legs trembling. Dreenath realized then that the real lesson had been learned. Surviving Earth wasn't about power or intelligence. It was about understanding the rhythm of life on the planet, and knowing when to fight, when to hide, and when to simply outlast. As they moved forward once again, Dreenath felt a new respect for this wild world. Earth had shown them its deadly side. But it had also shown them that survival wasn't just about conquering. It was about adapting, learning, and most importantly, surviving together.